Hello, thank you for coming to the first of our events. This is the Minnesota Original Music Festival's Songwriters in the Round event. And this year we've had a few changes in our organization. We're a 501c3, so that means that when you give us donations, you can take them off on your taxes. So, and I brought this little ball here, and so you can put donations in this. I'll have it sitting back there, so just in case you're looking for a place to do that. This year we have a lot of events that we're doing. We're also doing events virtually year-round instead of squeezing them all into one little weekend in July. So that's why we're having this event today. We have a new series. It's called the Music Exchange Series. The Music Exchange Series is an effort to feature various genres of music. So we're going to have an event in June called the Hip Hop Music Exchange. That's going to be at Patrick's, June 28th. I believe the young man back there with the colorful shirt who's running sound is going to be one of the leader of the band there. So we're going to have a jazz event. I believe it's going to be run by this gentleman here, but I don't know that for sure. He didn't know that either. So, and that will happen. That will happen on July 19th. Okay. So just so you know. So those of you that are jazz musicians and want to sit in with a really hot jazz band, you'll bring your instrument with you, and you can sit in with the easy jazz. We don't know. Sometimes they're trios, sometimes they're quartets. You know, things, it changes. Sometimes there's 4 people and they call themselves a trio. But then we also have an event that one of our board directors, punk rock Tom Heffernan, is going to be organizing called an Indigenous Music Exchange, where we have some native musicians that are going to be sharing some of their music with us. And this is going to be in Minnesota Square Park in September. We have an event in October, which is an event for the Roots Music Exchange. And I can sense that I'm kind of losing people right now, so I'm going to move along really fast here so we can get this the real thing going. So if you would check our website at QM, that's my band. Check our website at mnomf.org. Everything that we're going to be doing is going to be there. There's going to be some great stuff. And Adrian Barnett, who's sitting right back there in the corner, he's one of our headliners for this year's event on the main stage on Saturday, July 19th at 2 o'clock. So don't forget to come. So, all right, enough of that. So now let's get down to real business. This activity is made possible by the voters of Minnesota through a grant from the Minnesota State Arts Board, thanks to a legislative appropriation from the Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund. Okay.
Round of applause.
Yeah. It's great to live in a place that values music and art. Okay, one last thing I just want to thank. We have a board now in the Minnesota Original Music Festival. We have some important people. I'm just going to mention them fairly quickly. Our chairman is a person called Emily Stark, and she's walking around here taking pictures of us at inappropriate moments. A person who doesn't seem to be here right now, his name is Punk Rock Tom Heffernan. He's our vice chair. Farmer Josh Reinitz is our secretary. He's my defined secretary too. Leela Leonhardt is our treasurer. Jeff Ford right over here, he's not only a webmaster, but he's also on the board. And Michelle Roach is our workshop manager. And this person right over here, who is the host of this show, Shelly Pierce, is also on our board. And I want to let her do her thing here. So here you go. Thank you, Shelly.
Thank you. You guys want to come and have a Shelly Pierce? I work at KMSU. I host the morning show, and I also curate the Minnesota Music Channel, which is the second station at KMSU. But I've been a bass player since I was in 5th grade. when Mr. Gerda Jensen came around to my class and said, does anybody want to play a stringed instrument? And then all of us that raised our hands, they took us to the library where they had a violin, a viola, and a cello sitting out, and then in the corner was a string bass, like Liz's upright bass, but smaller. Everybody went straight to the violins, and I didn't want to do what everybody was doing, so I pointed at the bass and said, I'll play that. Without asking my parents if it was okay to bring home. Essentially like another child that sat in the corner all the time and never left. But so I've been playing the bass since I was in 5th grade. And I don't know what drew me to it, but I just always felt like the bass was for me. And then last year, Eli asked me to host this event, and I know I shocked Zach earlier when I admitted this, but I've never written a song before, but I'm going to be moderating the Songwriter in the Round event. So my first inclination was to say no, but I had been talking with folks about wanting to do, this event tonight, getting bass players together, talking about what it is to be a bass player, and playing music. And I thought, well, here's my chance to make that happen. And so I honestly have never written a song. I can't even write a joke, let alone a song. So I really appreciate it that you guys are here to talk about that, because you are people that make music and write music and compose music. And so I want to introduce who I've asked to join us tonight. Although there's a lot of bass players here, could we get a show of hands, everybody who's a bass player in the room? This is just fantastic. I wanted to just point out quickly and be a little bit selfish with the time, but when I started playing the bass, Mr. Gerda Jensen didn't know how to play the bass. And so in 5th grade, I was the only bass player and pretty much taught myself until I joined the Mankato Area Youth Symphony. And then this gentleman right here, Mr. Ernest, who does play the bass and taught at East, said, I'll teach you how to play it right so you don't look so weird when you're playing it the way that you figured out how to play it. So thank you, Mr. Ernest, for coming tonight. Of course, I call him Mr. Ernest, even though I call him Dave, but he's always going to be Mr. Ernest to me. But I loved it that I was talking with these guys earlier, and then Liz admitted that Mr. Ernest was also her first teacher.
My first bass teacher.
So,
Mr. Ernest.
Yeah, so a big round of applause. Thank you. He still plays in the Symphony, and you can see him play with the symphony still. So we're joined tonight by, I'll just start with, in the order that we are. Sitting next to me is Craig Matarrese. He's a professor of philosophy at Minnesota State University, Mankato, where he also teaches electric bass and directs the jazz combo. In fact, I believe we have some of his students here tonight. Thanks for coming. He plays in a variety of ensembles and contexts for MSU and around Minnesota, including the Blue Earth Collective, the Masa Ishikawa Trio, Steely Dan, and upstairs, the Steely Dan Tribute Band, and the Through Line Quartet. And he's also been our go-to bass player each time that KMSU has brought Jandek to Minnesota, which is amazing. Sitting next to him is Eric Zimmerman. He's an educator, musician, and band leader. His bass journey includes many different genres of music, including jazz, funk, tribute bands, video game soundtracks, that's the Nintendones, musicals, country, and educational concerts. His biggest influences are Victor Wooten, Marcus Miller, and Christian McBride. And these days he's playing a P-bass with flats, trying to channel the wisdom of James Jamerson's perfect groove on countless Motown recordings. And I heard some of that earlier. He's nailing it, by the way. Next to Eric is Liz Draper. She's an upright bassist who has played with everyone from Sub Pop's Grammy-nominated slowcore band Low to the Balkan folk group Orchestar Bez Im. Did I say that even closely?
You may.
Okay,
Close enough.
you may.
Fine.
Righteous Babe artist Pieta Brown, Grammy Award-winning Okie Dokie Brothers, and Smithsonian recording artist troubadour Charlie Parr. Liz currently tours with two-time Grammy-nominated songwriter Iris DeMent. And aside from being an in-demand side woman, Liz has gained a name for herself as a composer, ensemble leader, soloist, and curator. In fact, she has a show that she's curating coming up Saturday night at the Carnegie.
Yeah, Fanaka Nation, you should check him out. Afro Trap, he's coming with a really amazing jazz keyboardist, as well as a tabla player I just found out. It's going to be really, really good, and it's free tomorrow, 7 o'clock.
Oh, tomorrow night.
Wait, no,
Saturday.
Saturday. I was thinking it was Friday first. Like, I don't know. Yeah.
Liz attended Brooklyn School for Improvisational Music in 2003 and was one of 7 Giant Steps Music Action Women International Fellows in 2019. Liz is a 2021 American Composers Forum awardee for her solo work, which can be described as, I love this, classical doom folk jazz. Liz moved back to the Minnesota. What's that?
You don't have to read the whole thing.
Oh, but I want to. Liz moved back to the Minnesota River Valley in 2020, where she currently teaches and is proud to call home. And next to Liz is Marc Krogmann. Marc goes as Mnewk. I had to ask him that, how to say that. The M is silent. He's been awarded the Best Instrumentalist Trophy at the Minnesota Original Music Festival 48-Hour Band Challenge for 3 years in a row. I know because I'm one of the judges that voted him for that. He picked up the bass first in 1993 and has since performed with 11 bands ranging in style from alt country to heavy metal. His current projects include Burn Vault, Lodi, and the Quantum Mechanics, who have a CD release party Saturday night at Tremendous Brewing here in town. He also plays with Oaf. With that gentleman. He mixed and mastered Burn Vault's debut album, Ignite, as well as the forthcoming album from the Quantum Mechanics called 101. So let's give a big round of applause. Maybe it wasn't even your first instrument. We can start with you, Craig.
I think when I was really little, I was just sort of banging around on a piano and sort of not really playing, but striking a guitar, getting sounds out of it. But then my parents got serious and signed me up for guitar lessons when I was around 10. And I knew right away that I wanted to be a bassist, but I didn't want to tell my mom because she was paying for lessons. So I just made the following argument. I said, Mom, calculate all the money that you would spend on guitar lessons for the next year. Give me that money, I'll buy myself a bass and be my own teacher. And it worked. I was like 10, and so I got a bass. So there you go.
I think a memory that I have is the 7th grade talent show. And I wasn't even in the talent show, but I had a bunch of friends who had like this Green Day song that they played. They played When I Come Around. And they didn't even play it very good. They didn't even play like the real thing. They were just like, which is loud drums, and everybody went crazy. And I was like, I have to do that. I have to figure this out. So like I was already playing trombone and piano, but that was my like intro into that. So I was in the 8th grade talent show the next year. It wasn't as cool as that moment still in my mind.
Well, I started bass I played electric bass for a while I was playing some violin and piano and other random instruments, and I didn't really want to stick with the violin, and I was in school orchestra. My father, who's a musician around town, I wish he could be here, but he's singing in a choir tonight, or chorus choir, I don't know. Anyway, he was like, why don't you consider maybe just switching instruments? Maybe violin isn't your thing in orchestra. Maybe you've been playing some electric bass. Maybe, he encouraged me to think about upright bass. And it was like a light bulb went off, like, duh, of course, everything I listen to, whether it's jazz, whether it's hip hop, whether it's punk rock or whatever, had a bass in it, so it seemed like a natural fit. Now, of course, there's violin, you can do all of those things with that, but I didn't really realize that. But yeah, my folks have always been like super encouraging of me and music, and that's basically when bass clicked though for me.
Well, I'd also have to credit my parents a lot with it. They were always very encouraging of me being involved with music. I started playing when I was very young, but was horns all the way up until I was 15, and then I managed to convince my parents to buy me a bass guitar because all my other siblings had they had a trumpet and a trombone and the other band instruments that they played, but I played tuba in the band. And for those that know, tubas are incredibly expensive. So there was no way they were buying me a tuba, but I managed to convince them to buy me a bass because it's what I wanted to play, and I've been playing ever since.
Was it a family band?
No.
that
We just,
happened?
each of my siblings before me had had an instrument purchased for them,
Got it.
but there was no way they were purchasing me a tuba, so I was like, well, hey, give me a bass.
Or are you just like, I'm gonna write something for the bass, or?
Well, I feel like just as any, I mean, not every person who plays guitar will compose in the same type of way, right?
Sure.
Like every guitar player or even every singer. I do a lot of my writing actually with a piano, or sometimes even just completely away from any instrument and just like on a walk and trying to like come up with ideas. And sometimes there might even be like a phrase or something that I read that could be the words that then translate into me into like a sound to just like maybe other people that work with lyrics do that. And also it ranges. Yes, bass is my medium, but I've been in a lot of different projects that involve many other kinds of instruments, and sometimes I'll write, and maybe it will be like a melody line that comes first, and then the bass's role ends up being literally just a couple notes or pedal tone, even though it's written by a bass player. It just didn't seem what was appropriate for the particular song or the particular piece, so
Sure.
that's kind of my method, I guess, which maybe isn't much of a method, like lack of a method, maybe, I don't know.
How about you guys?
Well, I also written several songs on a 6-string guitar, like normal acoustic guitar. I've had songs that started with just a phrase of lyrics. I do have lyrics to a lot of my songs, but you won't hear me singing them tonight because shy bass player and all. But I think for me, like with the bass, its role sometimes is like connecting all the different parts of the band, rhythm, melody, harmony, all those things in one instrument. And so I can start with a bass line and kind of hear the other parts in my head because the way they all kind of interact with the bass, particularly obviously like the percussion and bass aspect, like it really unlocked songwriting for me actually when I learned to program drums, because having a rhythm to play off just really unlocks what I can do rather than just playing by myself. So when I learned to do that, it really opened things up a lot.
Well, maybe it'd be a good time, do you wanna play something? Because when we were chatting about this, you said, I'm gonna bring in all of my stuff and show you how
I didn't bring it all, but
but didn't show how you kind of do that. Maybe this would be a good time if you wanna try to show us how you walk through doing that.
oh sure. So like play the piece,
Yeah.
or I could just I can start with what's going on over here.
Or take your time.
So I've got a guitar amp on top here, which is just a regular, actually a bargain bin sort of guitar amp, but it does what I need it to do. And then my bass amp below that. And I split the two amps in different pedal signals. So one of these is running through an envelope filter, a compressor, some distortion, tremolo, and reverb. And the other one's going through a crazy pedal called the gravity well. Normally I have a fuzz on there, and then my multi-effects processor. And one chain goes to the guitar amp, the other chain goes to the bass amp. So it's not stacking pedals on top of each other, you're getting a parallel signal, so a different sound through each amp. So I can just try and demonstrate something real quick. one side just has a lot of grit, a lot of distortion, but the other one has some distortion and then a reverse reverb, which if I just play that reverse reverb, it's almost impossible to play something in time. Because everything's happening after the attack in a reverse way, but if I put the two together, so that's the general idea, is you can mix sounds you just wouldn't be able to do typically unless you ran parallel pedals and then blended them back together into one amp. But because I have a guitar amp here and a bass amp, the guitar amp is emphasizing completely different frequencies and giving you a fuller sound. So when I play an oaf, which is a very loud, big band, it just sounds massive, which is why I've gone to all the trouble to do it. So.
Do you use the same amps for that?
I typically use 2 cabinets on the bass amp for that, so it's a little bigger bass sound and turn things up a lot louder than they are right now.
Because Oaf is just you and Zach on drums.
Yep, that's right.
So you're the solo, you're the, yeah,
Yeah.
which
Yep.
is great. And then drums are kind of playing the bass part with keep it a beat.
Yeah, they definitely
Yeah.
carry a lot more, and it allows me to just sort of go crazy. Yeah. Yeah. But I have one other thing I could play real quick. That was just to sort of demonstrate some pedals.
Liz, do you want to go next and just kind of share how you do things? And you're going to play your upright for this, which I'm very excited.
Yeah, great.
Second.
So,
It was just like about a year and a half ago.
Okay.
I was on tour, and the woman I was on tour with got COVID, and she was quarantined pretty hard. And then we were all kind of like, we didn't know what to do, so we were all doing the 5-day thing because that was what was advised at the time. And after like walking around the town, it was a very small, beautiful town, but there was, I don't know, I wrote a song.
for us.
Yeah. All right, so the piece that I chose for tonight, because a lot of the questions were about process, this piece I started on the piano. I was just kind of noodling. I've always kind of wanted to keep noodling as part of my practice, just like exploring sounds. But I kind of had this story pop into my mind while I was playing, and that's kind of what helped me to like finish the piece and make it a piece. Because otherwise you lose your, you know, your experimentation, you forget it, you come back another day. But so the story I kind of went with was, I gave my left hand kind of the pulse, the heartbeat of time, and then I gave my right hand 2 notes, 2 parts of oneself. And one part is like physical, and the other part is spiritual. And then as they go on their journey, they become separated and then kind of disappear. And so I wrote the tune on piano, and then I charted it out and wrote it for my band. Then we played it, and then I kind of challenged myself for like the 3rd version, which was like, could I play it just on the bass solo, sort of like a coffee house version of the tune? Would it still resemble itself, or would it just be the bass part that you know is just the bass? So anyway, this is the tune. And since we're talking about gear, I'm just going to use a little bit of delay, just a subtle thing here. Just wanna make sure I'm
What is this
right.
piece called, Eric?
It's called Dematerialize.
the Easy Jazz Trio too?
Yeah.
Okay, you probably have released that then?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
on the album. We recorded it. Adrian played on that tune.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, so a few different versions there.
Awesome. Is it, I wonder, when you have a song and you write it and then you bring it to the group, is that something you've gotten over, or do you remember the first time that you ever did that with a piece, any of you? Was that like really hard to share that with the group, or just that whole songwriting process when you were younger? Like, do you remember the first piece that you wrote where you're like, I need to show this to somebody, I need to have somebody play this with me? Do anybody remember what that piece was?
I think I could actually play one of the ones that I
Oh,
brought to
really?
my band, and they hated it.
Oh, but
I love it, but you know. I've been playing it ever since, but they absolutely hated it.
I'm a little biased, but I think it's awesome. Well, you have some band members here.
I do.
Maybe this band.
Actually, yeah, I mean, we both could probably do something with that one.
Yeah. How about you guys? Do you remember the first piece that you shared with somebody? Too long ago. Well, Craig, would you like to play something?
Sure.
And you also have quite a few pedals.
Yeah, well, I have this pedal board because I'm doing some looping. And I guess most of my writing I do these days with use of a looper. I kind of just like to write stuff while I'm playing my bass.
And could you explain, in case anybody doesn't know what a looper is, what that does?
Yeah. So play anything, now it's in the looper. And so what I'll usually do, so like, I've definitely written some tunes the way I imagine a bass player writes tunes, which is you just come up with a wicked groove and then the tune unfolds from there. I've done that. I mean, that's great. It feels great. But I think lately I've been thinking more about chords and the way chords kind of draw on other chords and the way chords unfold. I mean, I'm writing music for musicians who improvise, so like my goal is always to come in with a chart that's got some cool changes and some cool material for people to improvise on. You know? And I don't just want it to be fun. I want it to be fun, but I want it to be fun and interesting and challenging. And this is all against the background of, I mean, the way I think about improvisation generally is that it's not that there's something inside your head, a mind or a self, that's making decisions and then expressing those decisions out into the world. It's more like through perception, the things that you hear in the world are drawing you into action. You're being solicited. You're being pulled towards doing things. So I'm thinking about music as something that solicits action. And so lately I've been thinking about the way chords solicit, note choices and improvisatory tendencies. And so I thought what I would do is, it's just part of one of my tunes. It's a section of one of my tunes called Stack It. And so here I was just looking for chords that would have this soliciting function. So I'll just tell you what the chords are. So like G minor, that's a pretty straightforward chord. It's clean, it's bright. It's like one way to get chords to sort of solicit is to get them to breathe a little bit. So a major chord followed by a minor chord, followed by a major chord and a minor chord. Those chords are sort of breathing. There's a push-pull. And so as an improviser, you kind of want to exist over these chords that are pushing and pulling in different ways, because it's the perception that's drawing you into the playing. Okay, so the first couple chords are, it's a G major, that's nice and clean. D7 with a sharp 9, that's both dark but also has some ambiguity because the sharp 9 and the major third rub against each other. So those two chords go well together. This is kind of a clean E minor, and in the context of the progression, when you drop the bass note to an E flat, it becomes a totally different sounding thing. So that's kind of got its own ambiguity and tension. And then coming out, I think it's just C minor and D7. So like these chords are no big deal. They're not that crazy or interesting or whatever. But anyway, so I'm just going to make a loop with these chord changes, and then I'll say something. I'm going to try to get you to hear the way the chords solicit. So I'm going to let these chords run, but first, okay, so improvising, a lot of what goes on in improvising is being able to hear chords on top of chords, chords substituting for chords, scales substituting for other scales, scales that sound a certain way on top of a certain chord. Like you sort of need to get good at hearing these things on top of each other. So these were different chords, but what I want you to hear when these chords are going by is this sort of breathing between a G major scale and a G minor scale. I'm just going to start with letting the chords go by. I'll play a G major scale and then a G minor scale, and I'll alternate between those two scales as the chords go through the progression. Then I might try some arpeggios, and then I just don't know how long I can stick to that, and I just might be improvising at that point. You know, like it makes sense for a while, and then you just can't help it. G major, G minor, back to G major, so G minor, G major again, G minor, again, minor, major. Right, so it's just two scales that should rotate. Just doing arpeggios so you can still hear the scale. Or a blues scale, a G blues scale. So, in terms of process, so what I end up doing is just getting a chord sequence that I like, improvising over it for as long as it takes until I feel like I understand what's happening and my ear has a grip on what goes on. And then the very last thing I do is write a melody. It's just the last thing. I mean, I suppose some people start with a melody, but on this approach, I want to make sure it works for improvisation. I want the chords to solicit appropriately, and then, you know,
I
let the
mentioned
melody be
Jan
whatever it's
earlier.
going to be. But
People
that's
aren't
the
familiar
result
with
of
him.
it.
He's a musician that just says, I would like to work with these people, and they had a brief practice, and then they just start playing music. Does that help but pretty much every improv start, or you guys chat about it a little bit?
Well, okay. Well, so let's say we were on a jazz gig with people playing standards.
Okay.
Then there would be improvisation, but that's such a saturated improvisatory context, right? It's like all normatively and harmonically and rhythmically saturated because jazz players know what they're supposed to do. But the jam deck thing is you just walk out on stage and he has specifically engineered it so that you have no idea what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
I mean, you really, really don't know what you're supposed to do. So it's radically indeterminate, unsaturated, free improvisation. And that's one thing.
In fact, we talked him out of putting ear noise
Oh
canceling
yeah, he wanted to
headphones
have
on
noise canceling
everybody
headphones on
and
everybody.
having them play on the stage. And we said, maybe
So,
that's a bridge too far.
yeah, because I mean, that is what we decided, right? Because it's like, okay, well now you can't hear anything. That's maybe too radical.
Yeah.
Feel vibrations. So I don't know how radically open are. What are we doing right now? So a radically open, free improvisation because that's cool.
Yes, do that.
So let's applaud, because if you guys are musicians, you know how hard it is to just say, let's play something and see what comes of it.
Can we do a reply?
Yeah.
Make sure we're all like similar.
And by the way, I don't, as somebody, we were talking about this earlier, growing up, I was often the only bass player in the orchestras that I was in. And just being up here with, this is the most bass players, and I'm not even playing, but that I've ever played with in a group was 4. So the fact that there's 4, 5, and then all of you out there at the end of the night, this is kind of the best thing that's ever happened to me in my bass playing. And I imagine that's probably the way it is for a lot of folks out there, because even if you're in an orchestra, there might be 4 or 5 bass players. So this is pretty special. All right, I'll let you guys kick it off.
Are we doing the piece? Or are we doing?
Well, I don't think we're doing,
I don't think we're doing that yet. Okay.
yeah, I think just a free improv, right?
Yeah, and then we could try to get everybody in on that
Yeah,
part.
okay.
passed out some sheets to the bass player. If you brought your bass tonight, now's the time to go and turn on an amp or plug into something. And Liz will explain a little bit about what she has in mind for this.
Yeah, totally. So I'm also gonna switch to electric for this.
Sorry.
Oh,
So I'm also gonna switch to electric for this, so we can have like a little bit of setup time, but basically I wrote a piece with the intention of the fact that we have all sorts of different types of bassists, all sorts of different types of learning styles, no time to actually run anything. So it's definitely a concept. I'm gonna grab the sheet. Can I use your sheet?
Oh, yeah, go for it.
So, it's also, feel free to not really look at any of this, but it starts with some tonal centers. These are kind of notes to gravitate towards. As you can tell, it's just basically a G major chord, but within that, I want to feel the tension. Let's let stuff breathe. Maybe we're not all totally in tune with the same G. Our tuners probably aren't exactly the same. This is a good thing. We'll sit on it. We have pedals. Just let there be some sound. Gradually, if you feel an A, play an A, right? So these are just ideas. At some point, we're going to come together, though, everybody playing some sort of a D. I think everybody knows what string is a D on their instrument, maybe not. So we're basically going to be doing these tonal centers, mess around with timbres, let's get the room vibrating a little bit, whatever that means. At another point, we're hitting a D. There's great D harmonics all over our instruments, whatever. Then we'll go basically like a E flat major 7 chord, which again has a strong D in it, so that's fine, whatever. So this is just like picturing just pictures, scapes, not rhythmic. If you take out for a little bit and get rhythmic, fine. And as audience members, if you guys feel like joining in and just making some low sounds or maybe even high sounds, feel free, because this is a time we're all in the same room together and we're here because we like music, right? So it just sounds, tones, have fun with it, think, whatever. Then eventually, I guess I'll probably start it. There's a groove that is very repetitive. I will play it on here, but it'll be louder when I plug in to my other setup. Feel free to join in. Let's try it together. Does anybody want to play who needs to check it, like plug in somewhere that
Yeah.
brought an instrument? And then also, I'll be playing electric, so if somebody wants to use this, maybe Dave does?
Yeah. Come on,
Yay,
Mr.
So we'll take a second just to get familiar with the groove, if that's okay. It's really basic. So it also, for those of us who are extra nerdy, it's a 3-bar phrase. It is in 4, but it feels like it's a 3. So a lot of this has some 3 against 2 feel, and I'll show some rhythms that I would also like to hear being emulated on the bass, but we can do it on instruments, anything, right? So let's just try the groove for a second, and then feel free to fumble around, whatever, and we'll get it, I hope.
Yeah, and if somebody's got their bass, Marc has another thing to cue up. Jeff, did you have another spot that you could cue up one too?
I have 4 DIs available.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so grab your basses out. And for those of you that don't have the music that Liz wrote up, on the second page in the front, she does have Forever. That's a word to hear a long time. Yeah, I think we started.
All right. 1, 2, here we go. So,
I'm so relieved I can play this.
yeah, exactly, right? Yeah, kind of. Awesome, all right. And then there's one that I think will be kind of cool also. It's basically like dotted quarter notes in succession for very 3 against 2 type feel. Thanks everybody for trying this, by the way. It's kind of fun. So kids, have me play the bass line again, and then you can demonstrate and join in on the. So I think a trick for this, though, you guys, is since we all gotta lock in together, is to make sure our release is pretty tight. Yeah. Maybe it'll just end up being whatever. So, should we just go for it? So the first part though, so again, there's tonal centers. Pay attention to long waves. We can sit on stuff for a while. This is, the first whole part is not supposed to be rhythmic. Picture like a big orchestra just tuning or something, you know what I mean? Like mess with our frequencies and things. And then try to hear, if we can all come together on a single, we hear that this kind of D. At some point we'll all join together, and then I'll start the bass line and then we'll take it from there. Great. Cool? Okay. Sorry. And again, audience, you're no longer an audience unless you want to be, but let's just make some sounds.
And we have microphones if you want to sing.
Oh yeah!
And go to the website and you can keep up with everything that's happening, because there's gonna be a lot of stuff. And thank you so much, you guys, for coming and doing this.
Thank you, Shelly.
I think